Hi everybody, Beth here from Access Paranormal for this week's I Want to Know. Before I go into it, I just wanted to say a big shout out to our friends and investigators in Queensland, particularly in Townsville and Mackay. At this point of this recording, there was a nasty cyclone that had come through. So for those in the Northern Hemisphere, that's a really big ass storm. And so I'm hoping everybody's okay and safe there as well. Hello, hi Heidi, how are you? Hey Blair, good to see you. I guess see you, or however that is in virtual land. So this week's I Want to Know is all about investigating during the daytime and should we do it as investigators. But before we go into that, let's have a look at the reasons why we investigate at nighttime. Now, I actually posted this particular question on the Access Paranormal page yesterday, and there were some great responses, and a lot of it that I obviously agree with as well, and a lot of it that I knew too. Hi, Karen, good to see you. Sort of. I've got to find a different term for that. So, obviously, the biggest reason why a lot of investigators investigate during the nighttime is due to sound contamination. So, nighttime, now I live in a semi-rural area, so my house fronts onto the bushland, and right now it's deathly quiet. So it's great when you're trying to do a lot of audio recordings, so less chance of false positives. So that's a big draw card of being able to investigate during the nighttime hours. I mean, people aren't driving around, going to and from, they're not sort of out and about, that kind of stuff, I find that during the day, if I'm trying to record my podcast, I actually try and do it at nighttime. Even here, there are dogs barking, kids playing out in the backyard, cars going past. If there's someone lost in the bushland, there's a helicopter going by. So you definitely do not feel alone during the day. At night time, it feels a little Blair Witch when there's a power out. So that's a big thing, is the fact that investigating at night time, there's less chance of potential contamination with sound as well. Hi, Mel, it's good to see you. All right, no worries, she's watching a movie. Go watch your movie and you can watch back later. Also at the same time, a lot of the equipment that we have for paranormal investigating is actually made for nighttime. So, especially the visual stuff. So, your video and your cameras, it's all the IR, UV light type stuff and night vision as well. Hey, Karine, I'm so glad you could join. Queenslander has thankfully survived the horrible storm so far. Cyclone, my bad. So there's that as well. So a lot of the equipment is built for nighttime, so a lot of investigators feel more inclined to investigate at nighttime and be able to use their equipment there as well. Another point I thought what might be interesting is that I have found for myself, and it might be a bit different for everyone else, but sometimes having light on in an investigation, so in a room someone's got their torch on or their flashlight, and you're asking out and sort of sitting and observing what's happening around you, that as soon as they turn their flashlight off, it tends to, the activity tends to either increase a little bit, or possible activity tends to increase. Now, there could be lots of other explanations to that, but I found that sometimes in places where you can't get full darkness, that those areas don't tend to have possibly the potential for a lot of activity, as opposed to other parts of a location where it's completely dark. I do know of somebody who runs tours, and she finds that when there's a full moon, there is nothing activity-wise. It's, excuse the pun, completely dead. So it's interesting that sometimes having some light at an investigation sometimes can appear to possibly hinder possible activity, but again, jury's still out. There could be all sorts of things going on, but that I found over the time has sometimes been an effect as well. Kaz, oh good, I'm so glad, Kaz, I'm so glad you're okay, sweetie, and you made it to this. So Kaz is also from Queensland as well. Our senses are heightened. Now that's another reason. Sensory deprivation is another reason why some investigators prefer to investigate at nighttime. So if those who may have heard the Gansfeld experiment, if you haven't heard of it, go and look it up. It's really interesting. But when one of your senses is taken away, it's apparently meant to heighten other senses. So if your eyesight is somewhat diminished, then your hearing is meant to, your sensory for your hearing is meant to increase. Also feelings and sensations in the body, you'll be more attuned to that because one of your senses have been taken away. So That's the other thing as well. Sometimes investigators actually like that environment. They find that they are more sensitive to what's possibly going around at the time as well. Also, there's the possibility of, I think someone had mentioned this before in yesterday's post, where if you're investigating a private or residential case, a client might actually prefer that you investigate at nighttime if they are quite busy during the day. Excuse me. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Again, it depends. I would sort of encourage them to be a little bit open to investigating during the day, because you want to be able to know, especially if there is possible reports of activity happening during the day. So, but sometimes it could be actually really inconvenient to be able to investigate during the day. And we know that sometimes with public locations, particularly with public locations, they may be open like a museum during the day, or a restaurant, or some sort of business. And the only chance you've got is to actually investigate at nighttime when everyone's gone home. So there's that to keep as well. I know that someone had mentioned something about the spooky factor was also really cool by investigating at nighttime. Again, it just depends where or what location and reasons why you're investigating as well. If it is a private case, yeah, not really favourable to only investigate at nighttime, like I mentioned. But obviously, if it's a public location, it's a little bit different for the reasoning as well. Arrowdale Asylum, yeah, Blair, I know. I've done investigations daytime and got a lot of EVPs. Yeah, excellent, Nicole. That's really interesting, because I've been surprised by a lot of people that are very open to investigating during the day, because the activity doesn't seem to really be less. It just seems to be a different way of investigating, and that's why I think it's, for me, I want to explore it more, and I'll tell you the reasons why as well. So for me, I think we should actually start looking also just as much as investigating during the day as well as at night time, and a couple of core reasons for that as well is the fact that it's, now if we're looking for possible signs of the afterlife, so if we're looking and investigating activity, and it's presumably because it's energy, ghosts and spirits that have passed on, there is a theory that there's no such thing as time on the other side. So if that's the case, then if you were to investigate during the day or night, it wouldn't really matter. So that's one theory, and that's probably one of the bigger reasons why I want to start to really explore this a lot more than other reasons, but they do count, trust me, when I go through them. Also, particularly with private cases, residential, again, like I mentioned before, there are people who are can have actually just as much activity happening during the daytime as well as the nighttime as well. So you need to be there during the day to actually be able to look at those claims and see what's happening during the daytime that could actually help explain it. So really, really important too. But also, I don't know about you, I'm not a fan of paranormal hangovers, so there's that as well. Even this weekend, I had a great time. Didn't get into bed until like 3:30, which is actually not too late, really, when you investigate. There's been one overnighters where I get home at like 7 in the morning, and I feel like a truck's hit me, not necessarily on the Sunday, but more so on the Monday as well. So there's also a big bonus with that as well, as investigating during the day. You're more than likely to try and avoid that horrible feel like you've been run over by a truck feeling on the Monday. It could be due to age, but yeah, back in the day, probably wouldn't have bothered me, all the all-nighters I used to do in my early 20s, but as one gets older, it's affecting me a little bit more. So yes, Sarah, investigating during the day is sometimes great for people that, can't get access to buildings at night. It can be a great practice when you don't have any investigations, or if the building is it's only open then. That's a great idea. That's a really, really good point. A lot of places, will be okay, depending on your business, I mentioned it before, some of them may not be able to give you exclusivity during the day because they actually need to still run a business, but maybe some will be be open to that. Now there's some places, like there's the Pioneer Village here that I know that Appy run events from as well. They are open one Sunday during the day a month, so they are open during the day, so going in those times. There's other locations that are historic locations that are open on certain days, so maybe offering to go during the day, in between investigations, if you want to be able to go in and suss it out. That's a really good point there, Sarah. I really like that. I also have heard footsteps and knocks at the daytime as well. Exactly, I was staying in a bed and breakfast up in Katoomba, in the Blue Mountains, a beautiful spot, and I was only staying there for one night. Beautiful little old place. Surprise, surprise! It's an old historic building I was staying in, and I was there during the day, just sort of lying on the bed with a book, sort of thing, and thinking, oh, I probably should go and head out and grab something to eat for dinner. And as I was lying there, I felt the bed move down, and that was probably one of my most memorable spooky experiences. But it was during the day. I didn't really sleep much that night because it was very early on in my investigating sort of experience, and yeah, hadn't grown the appropriate courage by that point. So yeah, so that was happening during the day, and very, very interesting aspects with that as well. It's good to check an unknown environment, yeah, when you can see the stairs, holes, exactly. So investigating during the day is really, really good, because it also should include a site walk, as Renata had said. So investigating during the day, you get to see the location. Not every location is going to be hugely dangerous. Hopefully it's not. But even just from a common sense point of view, just actually seeing where the water is, where the power lines are, where the holes are, where the uneven surfaces are as well, keeping them in mind. Those kinds of things are really, really important also when you're actually looking and possibly investigating during the day. So looking at that's also really handy too, as well. Oh, hi Vicky, good to see you. Hey, sweetie. So yeah, there's a couple of good points there as well. But as I said, I'm all for investigating during the day. As I said, I'm going to try and start to look at doing that actively. I'm sort of scouting a few venues in that regard, and avenues and ideas, and that with a couple of people, and actually really start to knuckle down and see whether or not there is sizable potential for possible activity during the daytime, as well as also possibly during the night as well. Oh, thank you. Hello, Ben. How are you, mate? You just popped in the end. So there are my points there. Again, if you've got some great tips about investigating during the day, by all means, you put them in the comments section of this video. If you're watching this video on the Access Paranormal website, you'll be sure to actually read through the comments on the bottom as well. But even if you are, be sure to email them. Email them through to accessparanormal@gmail.com. That would be amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Until the next exciting episode.